Hello YouTube, Guten Tag, yes, beyond the new, yeah, hiya, hey up, hope you're all doing alright. Okay, so in today's video, yes, we are going to be looking at Lightroom. Oh God, yeah, you're going to turn it off now, aren't you? Don't, alright. A lot of you think I'm a bit of a Lightroom fanboy. I'm not a Lightroom fanboy. I'm not a fanboy of anything. I just use what does the job. Okay, sometimes it's Lightroom, sometimes it's RawTherapee, sometimes it's Darktable, sometimes it's art. Yes, but Lightroom is a mainstay of my workflow, and Lightroom has a couple of problems. Now, one is you've heard me mention it before, Lightroom's background crap, yeah, and two is its demosaicing algorithm. I'll cover the demosaicing algorithm in another video, probably sometime between Christmas and New Year, but don't hold me to it. But what I want to do today is address the first problem I mentioned, and that's Lightroom's background crap. Okay, and I'm going to show you, as I've done in videos in the past, but you might well have forgotten, I'm going to show you how to get rid of Lightroom's background crap. Alrighty, so I'm working on this sequence of female cheetah images kindly sent in by the lovely Gabriela. Hiya Tinkerbell, how are you? You alright? Thanks for sending in the images. And a bit of a sad story this. This female cheetah, yeah, isn't standing here posing for Gabriela. She's actually lost her cubs. She doesn't know where they are. They are not where she left them. Typical kids wander off, isn't it? But, you know, it's not as simple as that, and it's no joking matter. Something nasty could have befallen them while she's been off hunting or whatever she's been doing. And so, you know, I mean, it's a bit of a sad tale. She's contact calling, as you can see. I mean, it's just a sad story, really. I actually don't know the outcome, because Gabriela doesn't know the outcome, or she hasn't last time I spoke to her, whether she's actually been reunited with her cubs or not. Anyway, I digress, do I not? But it is a sad story, yes. So, we've got these shots of this cheetah, and straight away, we're opening Lightroom. We've got no adjustments on the images whatsoever. This is just Lightroom as it installs on your machine. Bring the images into Lightroom and be greeted with this. I know that there's something wrong with this image straight away, because I've got black clipping showing up in the Instagram. And the problem is with Lightroom, it never gives you a histogram of the raw file. All it ever does is give you a histogram of the image as it displays on your screen. And your big problem, and what causes Lightroom's background crap, is Lightroom preferences, presets, global Adobe default, and it's this Adobe default which causes the crap problems. And what do I mean by the crap problems? Well, first off, the big giveaway is this clipping indicator here, and it's basically just got too much contrast in it. Now then, I've been doing a lot with my Patreon members over the last few weeks, showing them the various pitfalls and foibles with Lightroom, masking, etc., etc. But we've also touched on this getting contrast under control. And I've done this in YouTube videos before, but I'm going to do it again now for all you new subscribers, new viewers, etc. And I love Lightroom, but it has its limitations. And this is one of them, but it is so easy to get round these problems. And this is something I don't understand it. I never see it addressed in other YouTube videos on Lightroom. I just never see it addressed. And gosh, you know, I'm not unique. I'm just a stickler for trying to get things right in the first place. Because if you get things right in the first place, your processing workflow, because you shouldn't use the same workflow as me, you should develop your own. But you're always best building your workflow based on what the raw file actually looks like, not Lightroom's interpretation. Alrighty. So, there is too much contrast. Andy, how do you know there's too much contrast? FOSS raw editors to the rescue. Let's go and get this image and let's open it in, let's say, RawTherapee. Okay, and here it is in RawTherapee. And I'm always telling Lightroom users to go and download either RawTherapee or Art. Okay, and very simply, if you're in RawTherapee or Art, just come to your preferences, and when you go to image processing, if you're not going to use RawTherapee or Art for your processing because you enjoy using Lightroom, just use it for checking and seeing what your raw file actually looks like. And under image processing, default processing profile, choose neutral and click OK. So what we are doing, or what we are looking at here, is a totally neutral, unaltered, unadjusted version of the raw file. Okay, that is what we are looking at. If we were to shut down RawTherapee and go and open it in Art instead, we would see the same thing. And let's just wait for it to open up, and there we go. And all I'm going to do again is just make sure that I am looking at it in a neutral manner. Okay, this is the histogram of the image as it's displayed on the screen. If I click there, I am now looking at the raw histogram, and you can see the raw histogram is actually choked a little bit in all three channels, so you just got a bit of clipping in red, green and blue. And I know where that clipping is. It's in the dark parts of the cheetah's nostril and the dark parts of the cheetah's ear. And if I go and click on here and turn on the clipping indicators for the shadows, and I bring the image up to a I'm bringing it up to a near 100% view. Well, it is a 100% view, and you can see the little bits of clipping, and you can see I've got bits of clipping, random clip pixels in the background as well. Okay, the out of focus background, but we're not bothered about those. So if I shut that down, well, before I do, let's just bring it back to a fit to screen view, rather like that. Just keep that image in mind and how that image looks. And let's come back to Lightroom. And so all I'm going to do is hit this little preset that I've got called PV swap. PV stands for process version. Now then, look at this image, and then let's go and look at the image in Art. They look pretty similar. Alrighty. So I'm going to shut down Art. This is a really good starting place to process this image inside Lightroom. Yes, it is a really good place to start, because now we've got rid of all the excess contrast that Lightroom wants to put on our images by default. And I'm going to show you why this contrast is so vital to get rid of. And in order to do that, I'm going to switch out to another image, let's say this one. And as you can see, we've got a different pose from the Cheetah. But again, we've got black clipping on because we're on the Adobe default rendering of the raw file. And I'm going to come in to a 100% view. And then what I'm going to do, because I'm working on a calibrated monitor, I am going to bring up my calibration software. And the nice thing is, if you do your colour management right, when you've calibrated your monitor, your software should give you the ability to validate that profile. And so I'm going to just come into display details and history, and here we can see validation from the last time I actually did a calibration, which wasn't so long ago. But I'm just going to click on validation details, and the one thing I'm interested in is the black value. Alrighty, so I'm just going to scroll down to patch number 1000. In other words, black. Alright, now here's the thing, there isn't a single monitor on the planet that can actually display black. You can get near black, yeah, but you can't get black. Alright, now we're just going to look at measured lab, and all we're interested in is the L star value of lab, and the lab scale for brightness, luminance, luminosity, etc. Black to white tone, right, is 2.03, not 0, 2.03. So the maximum black or deepest black this monitor calibrated for 120 candelas per square meter and a D65 white point and an overall neutral grey profile, a grey balance profile. The maximum black that I can see, or the deepest black that I can see, is 2.03. Keep that value in mind, 2.03. There is no point in having a black any darker than 2.03 in the image. None at all, because I can't display it. Yeah, everything from 2.03 to 000 will all be displayed as just flat near black. Okay, so in other words, what I'll do is I'll lose all my shadow detail. So we will just come back to Lightroom, and the simplest way of measuring your blacks isn't by going and holding Alt down and doing all this black slider clipping and white point clipping. That's just so wrong. Oh, geez, God. It just makes your image a mess, because what is the fundamental problem is this Adobe colour. You know, and you can go and watch all the super duper real big Lightroom Photoshop channels, and nearly all of them use Adobe colour. Not all of them. Not all of them. Some of them will address this problem in a slightly roundabout way, but you can usually tell a good Lightroom trainer because they don't use Adobe Color, they just use Adobe Standard. Yeah? Right, so I'm just going to pick up the Color Balance tool, and I'm not going to use it to do a colour balance. All I'm going to do is just make sure, if I hover over my Instagram and right click, Show Info is checked and Show Lab Colour Values is checked. And that's all I'm going to do. And I am going to come into this. I mean, you can see quite plainly here. There's nostrils here on the Cheetah, but they all look scrunched up black. And I look in there and I've got an L star value of 0.7, and I'll come here and I'm at 0.1. What? No. I come in down here. What have we got there? 2.2. That's just about displayable on my monitor. Yeah. Now I'm down. Just move it down a couple of pixels, and now I'm at 1.7. So I've lost all my black detail down to this background contrast rubbish that Lightroom puts on your image by default if you use it as it installs on your system. Right. Now here's the thing. I can just go and select this preset that I've got here. PV swap. Okay. In point of fact, I can go over here and I can actually put the exposure back and put the contrast back. But if I come in here now and I start measuring blacks, 10.9. Okay, remember my minimum black monitor display is 2.03. 10.9. What's the lowest one I can find? 6.4, 5.2. There'll be something in there that might hit 3, but you know, it doesn't matter where you look. I can see all my shadow detail now, and I've got contrast under control. So if I go and park that, and then I hit XY, okay, there is Lightroom's default, alrighty, and I can go, let's go up a little bit higher, let's go to 200% view, and let's just come in here. Look at that, no detail in the nostrils, as much detail as was recorded on the Z9 in the nostrils. You tell me which one is better. This one here. Real simple, because it displays properly using the maximum tonal range of my monitor. Yeah. So there we go. And look at it, overall it just looks more natural. This more natural position, which is very much akin to the same position you saw in RawTherapee and Art by default in their neutral configurations, it's the same. So let me show you how to create this preset. It's real simple, and then what I'm going to do is show you how to change Lightroom settings so that it never shows you Lightroom's background crappy contrast ever again. Right, so what we will do is come back to a whole image view, and I will now go reset settings, and we've got Lightroom's crap all over it again. So all we're going to do, and don't worry if your panel positions over here are different than mine, I've just changed mine around from their default layout. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to calibration. That's on your installation of Lightroom, that's probably right at the very bottom. And you can see we're in version 6, okay? Right, so let's swap that out to either version 1 or version 2. And just swap it out to either. Don't do 3, 4, 5 or 6. Go and do version 2. Right, now this takes us back to the old default panel adjustments that we had sort of when Lightroom first came out and things were more manageable. Okay, and Lightroom wasn't hiding anything in the background. So, blacks. Right, so you're very familiar if you're a Lightroom user with the black slider. The only thing is, it's different here. When you take the black slider to the right in Lightroom on your machine, the blacks go lighter, don't they? Yeah. Well, if we move it to the right here, they go darker, but you'll notice that the lighter areas don't go any darker, right? So what we've done is we've now increased contrast to a point where it's just vile. So if we drop that back to where it is by default, what we actually need to do is take it to 0, right? The image is now too bright. You might think it looks all right, and you don't want it any darker, but believe you me, it'll all sort itself out in a minute. Right, so you can see we're at plus 50. We need to take that back to 0. Contrast, ooh dear, contrast is at plus 25, right? We actually need that back at 0. The next problem comes with the tone curve, and this is the thing that catches everybody out. For the last 2 or 3 process versions, the default tone curve gives you the impression that you're working on a linear curve. You're not. You're actually working on a medium contrast tone curve. This way you can actually see the tone curve that you're working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that back to linear, and you'll notice how the contrast has dropped even more. We're then going to come back to calibration, and I'm going to switch. Now what I want you to do is just watch the image. I'm going to switch back to version 6 current. Watch the image. Just a little teensy weensy shift in contrast. We're going to come to detail, and we're just going to check that the sharpening's on. We're going to come to lens corrections, and we're going to activate remove chromatic aberration. If you want to utilize Adobe's or Lightroom's built-in lens correction profiles, please feel free to put a check mark in there. Yeah, I never use them. Yeah, very, very rarely do I use any form of lens correction. So you can take from that either I'm an idiot or B, you don't need to use them. Take your pick on that, and doubtless most of you will go for the former. Yeah. So remove chromatic aberration checked. That's essential. As I say, you can check this one if you like to enable profile corrections. Detail we've already done. Basics, and so this is looking right. -1 for exposure, -33 for contrast, +25 for blacks. Right, and all you need to do now is to come over to presets, and where it says plus, just click it, go create preset, and this is what I call PV swap. So you can call it PV swap, you can call it whatever you fancy, but click create. I'm not going to bother because I've already got it. So what you can do though now is go to Lightroom Classic, Preferences, and you can switch Adobe Default for Presets, User Preset, Process Version Swap. Okay, and then all you need to do is to shut that down. Close that window, and then let's say we come to this raw file of Gabriela's here. Okay, Lightroom's background rubbish all over it, but what we've just done in Preferences is we've changed the default processing preset from Adobe Default to that Process Version Swap or PV Swap that we've just made and called whatever you've decided to call it. So if we just come over here now and right click on the image and go to Settings, Reset, there you go. Okay, and every image that you got in your Lightroom catalogue or in this particular folder of images, you can very easily go and just make the raw files look more like they would do in a FOSS editor by default. Develop settings, I've just selected 2 there. We'll go reset, and that's those 2 done, and I can come back to this one and I can just go settings, reset. Okie dokie. So that's how to work. Do you want me to process one? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is do what I've done here. Okay. I don't know if this suits you, Gabriela. It's a little bit of an odd shot because I just don't like this mush here. It's not good. But at the end of the day, what have we done? Because we've got rid of Lightroom's background rubbishy background contrast increasing adjustments, we've flattened the image. Okay, but what I've now done is I've now gone and isolated the Cheetah, and I've made adjustments to the Cheetah to actually bring her forward in the frame. We've made it a little bit lighter, a little bit more contrasty, changed the colour temperature, etc, etc. And so what we've done is we've taken a relatively flat looking Cheetah in her background and done that and brought her forward. Yeah, so it focuses the viewer's attention on the Cheetah and not on the tangled, massive, out of focus background. Okay, so let's go and do the same sort of thing with this, shall we? Do I want to change the overall image? Not really, because I know the backstory of this image. I know trouble is at large. Yeah, it's not a happy scene. It's not a contented scene. It's a very worried scene. So you'll notice it looks slightly blue-grey. It looks a bit dour in the background, as they would say north of the border. Yes, I want to try and maintain this dual look, but I want to pop the Cheetah forward. So the way I'm going to approach this, we are going to have to denoise it, yeah, but instead of following Adobe's guidelines and the guidelines that most people on YouTube would tell you to do, denoise the image first. No. Because the amount of denoise that you put on the image, it's quite easy to put too much on. Okay, so I'm going to, let's go select subject first and let's go and have a look at that. It's got, the selection has got way too much overspill on it. Overspill going into the background, and it just, yes, you can sort of titty-bait it up a little bit, but no, it's not quick enough for me, that isn't. So I'm going to come back out to a fit to screen view, and I'm going to go object selection, and I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to say, go find me the main object in that box. Ooh, that's a lot better. Indeed, we've got, first off, we've got no overspill in the mouth. We've got a little bit of tuft there, which is basically hairs on the cheetah's chin, I would imagine. Yeah, and we could actually possibly intersect that with a select subject. And you see how that's just changed the nature of that mask again. All you've got to do is just think about this stuff logically. Now remember, masking in Lightroom is sort of fuzzy masking, yeah? It's not ultra high precision masking like you would do inside of Photoshop. So let's just come back out to a fit to screen view so we can see what we're doing. But overall, that's a pretty cool selection of that cheetah, especially because the whole image is now low contrast. And so what are we going to do in that selection? First of all, I'm going to come to exposure, and I might just go and give her a little bit of an increased exposure, not too much. I'm going to, we'll come back there again in a minute, but I'm going to go to colour. And first off, I'm going to warm her up just a little bit, and I'm going to increase her saturation. I might just come back to tone, and I might just add a little bit more contrast to it, and then take the whites up a little bit, like that. Now, a lot of people will tell you, go too far and then dial it back. And that's a very, very sensible approach, because you don't actually have to bring it backwards and forwards on one slider, because you've got an overall amount slider at the top where we can turn that effect up or down. All right, so that it balances with the background. We are trying to pop the cheetah forward in the scene, but it still needs to look real. Because we can't afford it to look like a cardboard bloody cutout, can we? Right, so let's go and have another look at colour again. And do I want to warm her up a little bit more? Maybe, but probably not as saturated. Okay, now because I've taken the saturation down, that's made her look a little bit brighter, so maybe I might just bring those whites down a little bit. Then we're going to come in at 100%, and we're going to come to effects, and I might give it a little bit more texture, a little bit more clarity, and then I might do something really odd and give her a little bit of negative DAs. Okay, that just gives you a little extra bit of leeway on the contrast. And let's come out to a fit to screen view, and I don't think that's looking too bad for the minute. We've not finished yet. I'm going to go and click close on that, because now we've got a rough exposure balance between the background that I want to keep and the actual cheetah. I've now got a good, accurate view of the amount of noise that I've got in the image. And you know, again, if I want to go YY, we haven't done any noise reduction yet. look at the severity of the noise in here, and look at how little noise we've got in that background now, and I haven't done any noise reduction. Okay, so let's come back to our main image, and let's now go and do a little bit of denoise. Okay, now I'm going to make a suggestion to you here. When you're going to denoise inside a Lightroom, turn the sharpening off, yeah, because that will allow you to see your noise as it really is, because sharpening in Lightroom and in Camera Raw is pretty pants, yeah. It's crude, to be quite honest with you, and so it needs to be done in a more controlled manner. And if you leave sharpening turned on before you denoise, you're seeing too much of the noise. The noise is too prevalent because the noise is actually being sharpened. And this masking slider doesn't actually do what you expect it to do. Yes, it'll take sharpening off the noise in the background, but it'll also take sharpening off the subject in areas of lower frequency detail, which is not something you want. No. Okay. Right, so I'm now going to go to denoise, and this is a 2000 ISO image, you know, which if I just click on that magnifying glass and then I come and click in the mouth area, now I can see, just move it over there, this background here, to me, you see, I don't like my backgrounds looking as smooth as glass, as smooth as plastic. It looks horrible. But I'm going to just go with a noise reduction level of around about 20, 21, 22, 23, no more, and I'm going to go enhance. And you know, we could be doing this just as easily on a smart object or a smart object layer over in Photoshop using Adobe Camera Raw, as I showed you in the video I did about a month and a half ago about dual denoising. But this image doesn't need dual denoising, so just wait for it to finish off, and there we go. And I'm quite liking that. There's more than enough noise reduction in that background for me. I like it. So that's it, denoised. Now what I'm going to do is to come back to masking, and I'm going to use this mask again. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is come to the little dots over there, and I'm going to go duplicate mask 1. Okay, but of course I don't want all the various adjustments I put on beforehand, so we'll go and neutralize all of those, and it would have been quicker to make a new mask actually, but we'll zero all those out. So there we go, and then all I'm going to do is to come in at 100% and just make sure that I can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to come to detail, and I'm just going to get this sharpness slider, and I'm just going to increase the sharpness. Okay, and if I think that sharpness, I'm quite happy with this, by the way, but if I think that sharpness is actually causing artifacts on the edge, I can just simply come into here and I can go intersect, select subject again, and what that will do, if we go show overlay, it just sneaks the mask in from the edge a little bit. I've got a tiny bit of overspill here, but that's a tiny bit of sharpening overspill on a denoised background, which fundamentally isn't going to make any visual difference at all. While I've got this up, do I need to go and add a little bit of saturation back again after I took it out? Yes, I think I do. A little bit of warming and come into tone, and I think I am going to lift the whites up a little bit, just there, like that. Okay, let's go out to a fit to screen view and have a look at that. Yeah, I'm rather liking it, but you know, we might just turn it down a little smidge, and let's just go back to mask 1 as well and just turn that down a little smidge too. Okay, I'm rather liking what I'm seeing there. Okay, personally I wouldn't do it quite so much, but I have to worry about YouTube compression, so I'm just hoping you guys can see that. I might actually come in and add a linear gradient from the bottom as well, and just bring that up to around about there, so I get a good grab on the immediate background and the foreground. But I need to subtract, and I'll just go subtract select subject, and then all I'm going to do is just give this foreground a little lift in exposure, and I'm going to come to colour, and I'm going to give it a little lift in saturation, all like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here as well, and I'm going to get a radial gradient, and I'm going to take the image out to a something like a 12% view, so I can see what I'm doing. And with this new mask, new radial gradient selected, I'm going to bring the radial gradient in from somewhere up here. Yeah, okay, rather like that. Make it nice and big, but then I'm going to invert it. Okay, and I'm just going to bring the exposure down a little bit. Okay, a little bit like that. Yeah, okay, and we can turn that off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. I like that because it's just taken things and just toned them down in a blended way, because the light is sort of coming from over this side of the image, the right side of the image, and so you know, I quite like that. So we'll go ahead and click close. So there you go, that's a full image process done in Lightroom. Okay, and we'll come back to a fit to screen view so you can see what's going on. Let's come in at our 100% view. The subject is nice and sharp. The background has been denoised very, very effectively. We've maintained this doer sort of mood and general atmosphere. We've put a bit of pop on the Cheetah to separate it from the background and ostensibly from the foreground as well, but then we've just added that linear gradient just to bump the foreground up a little bit, just to add a little bit more depth in the image. Gee whiz. I don't know how long this video's turned out to be, but I hope with that full image process I've been able to show you why it is important to get Lightroom's background crap contrast off your image, so you can just go ahead and build an image up quite simply. Because trying to do this process on an image where we haven't got rid of Lightroom's background crap would have been an absolute nightmare. And you always have to remember, if you rasterize an image with too much contrast in, you can bet your bottom dollar the first time you'll notice it's got too much overall contrast in is when you've rasterized it. And once it's been rasterized, you have the devil's own job to take it out. Get rid of excess contrast. Get your image back to a bare bones view of your raw file, and then go and add your contrast and your colour and your lightness and your colourfulness, saturation, vibrance, call it what you like. Go and add it exactly where you want. Because always remember this, only you know why you took a particular image. Everybody else who looks at that image is a third-party viewer, so they're only guessing why you took the image. Yeah? This way, when you can build separation into your image, that's when people stop questioning why you took the image and they go, wow, yeah. And then if you just give them a little bit of a backstory, yeah, it all comes together, it all pulls together, and it all makes sense. Okay, guys, that's it. Yeah, it's been a bit of a ramble. Technical to start off with, but then getting a bit creative based on the results of the technical analysis and creating that process version swap just to get Lightroom's background crap under control. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you found it useful. Hope you found it interesting. All you guys on FOSS, you know, RawTherapee, Art, Darktable, I bet you've not watched that. And really and truly you should, because this is one of the things that made me start looking at FOSS editors in the first place. The other thing that made me look at FOSS editors is the thing I'll cover in the next Lightroom Faults, Lightroom Lies video sequence. Yeah, number 2, the demosaicing algorithm. Yeah, and how it can show thoughts up on certain images and not others. It doesn't really show any thoughts on this image, and it's all to do with the nature of the edges. Yeah. I'll leave that one with you. Like I say, that video will be up possibly sometime between Christmas and New Year. So until then, guys, many thanks for watching this video and sticking with it. If you've enjoyed it, if you found it useful, give it a thumbs up, leave me a nice comment below, share it with your friends, and then it's something you can use as a Christmas. Oh, look, I sent you a Christmas present, Bob. I sent you this link to Andy Asprey's video. Yeah, see? I think of everybody. Yes, I do. So, you know, stay safe, stay well, keep taking the pictures, and have a good one, folks. And I'll see you, most likely, in between now and the other side. Yeah. Happy Christmas, guys. See ya!